Hello, SHL. We're back after a bit of a break. I'm Rich,
And I'm Akamai.
and welcome to Too Long Didn't Listen. This is number 11. So, yeah, we took a week off, mostly because I was lazy and didn't kind of get going, and we didn't do one. And then I took a little vacation, so I was gone last weekend, so we didn't do it then either. So now, yeah, we're back again.
Yay. Back
Yeah.
in business.
Yeah. So yeah, there's no real good reason for us to have taken time off. I mean, we could have done it during the week. I got lazy. It's pretty much what it came down to.
I mean, I coach nights and weekends, so it's really tough for me to do anything during the week usually. So it is what it is. It's all good.
Yeah, no big deal. So last time
We return.
yes,
Important thing.
last episode we talked about since it's 2 weeks, kind of a lot has happened in terms of like games that have been simmed and kind of where we're at in the season. Because last time we were still in the regular season. I think we were on the tail end, or maybe maybe not even on the tail end, towards the second half of the season at the very least. Because last time we talked about the junior playoff outlook, and it wasn't super clear at the time, I don't think, if I remember right.
No. And I think it was both not super clear, partially because we don't really do juniors anymore. I mean, I'm going to start now, but I think it was also a factor of the league was kind of like it was a good sort of even start, I felt like.
Yeah, and actually that reminded me, I should say, congratulations on your co-GM spot for Colorado. That's pretty cool.
Thank you. Yay.
Yeah, it's fun. For me, it like really changed my relationship with the league, I think, because the reason I was logging in then every day was completely different than as just a player.
Yeah, because then you're a caretaker. You're looking out for your people.
Yeah, it's different. I liked it. I enjoyed it. But yeah, it's fun. I think you'll like it. I don't know, how much are you into it at this point?
Right now, I've basically Rice is handling all of the sort of sim side stuff. Not that there's that much to do prior to, because Colorado's already has long since been knocked out of the playoffs at this point, which everyone expected because most of Colorado is inactive at this point. So, we have a couple of people who are still active, and then it sounds like basically what Rice needs me for most immediately is I'm going to handle a lot of the sort of recruiting side, doing the pre-draft discussions with people, doing the interested prospects threads, and then also doing the really key there is I think I'm going to end up doing a lot of the free agent stuff because I guess he was really busy with school, and a lot of the I think because it happens at noon Eastern times, that's like if somebody's in school while they're trying to also GM, that means they're not available a lot. They kind of can't get to those free agents right away. So yeah, I am gonna hopefully do that side of things. I really liked the way you guys sort of brought people in and ran things in Kelowna, so I'm going to try to do as much of that as possible. I know some people were joking about, oh my god, make Colorado soft again, and that's kind of what I'm going to do, because I want everyone to come in and be welcome and be able to make friends that they keep going on to their seniors team. That would be my goal. So, yes. We are going to be soft and friendly and I know, not
I mean, I think for me it was always important that or the thing that kept me coming back to the league, and was kind of my goal as a GM, was the people that I had around me.
Yes.
when I joined Kelowna. And so if you need to cultivate, I think, a community that is going to be friendly, welcoming, and really supportive. And that was my main goal as a GM, was to kind of keep that environment that we already had.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want it to be, I don't, like how quiet the locker room and the Discord are right now is not healthy for a team. Not that, I mean, not that you can control, there's only so much you can control. So people are going to go inactive, but you also want to make it clear that it's like you would welcome them back to the team too, because there's been some people who, and I've seen this as being part of Kelowna in New England. There, people run into offline stuff all the time, and then sometimes they like wonder because they left so suddenly if they'd be welcome back. And my stance is always yes. The league is healthier with more people in it, and of course we want to have you come back. We want to see you. We want to welcome you back into the league. And there's very few circumstances in which I would ever say that wasn't true. And usually when stuff like that happens, it's because somebody got banned or did something really, really not okay. But
yeah, it'd be pretty outstanding.
Yeah. So for me, I really, I want my chance to make my mark on the league, not so much by a win-loss record or, you know, how well my players perform after they get into seniors. I want to make my mark on the league by saying, okay, this is somebody who is a really active presence in whatever locker room she's in. She makes the site fun and welcoming for lots of people, and we'll go to bat for them if something happens. So that's sort of my take on it. I'm eager to get into the sort of mentorship side of things too, because I've learned a lot over the past couple of seasons. I've sort of put myself in a position where I think I can manage a team well, guide people through their builds and how to do your updates and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm hoping that I'm in a good position to be able to sort of build Colorado back up. And you can't build a team without a good alumni base. And I'm really lucky to say that, though it's been pretty quiet, I have the alumni who have stayed through sort of the periods of inactivity are really, really good people. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's at this point it's a little bit blank canvas, so that's exciting. And I know some people feel like it's hard to come into a locker room or a place where it's not super active and try to start that, but as you listeners well know, that's not my problem.
Yeah, and it's actually with the juniors is a little different when you're talking about turning a team around like that too, because the to completely turn a team around, assuming you have all your draft picks, it should only really take 2 seasons.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be that long.
Yeah, it's a lot easier. There's a lot less, and the only way you're really gonna have issues is if you just don't have picks or the draft classes are really small. And even then, if it's a small draft class, you've got all your picks. Everyone else is in the same boat too, so it's not really that bad.
Yeah. So then it's up to you to just keep everybody updating, make sure everyone knows sort of what they're doing, what the goal is, what their goals as a player are, how can you help them achieve that, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
So yeah, so I'd like to, at some point, I would really like to get more into the sim. I actually, this morning I went ahead and bought the subscription so I can have a copy myself and play around with line changes and do stuff like that. I've been really lucky to have some awesome mentors when it comes to building lines and building a team. I've met so many people. I've become friends with JY and Tanner and Lil and you, and I've met people who have done the walking people through how to build a good player before, and have learned both from successes and from failures in that regard. So I'm really hopeful that, it sounds from Rice like he is sort of burning out is strong, but he just doesn't have the time to dedicate to being sort of a full-time GM. And eventually I'll have a sort of real person job. I won't either, but in the meantime, I really would like to get comfortable with the ins and outs of the sim and how to, navigate it and then hopefully be in a position where Rice is confident that he could leave the team in my hands and have a smooth transition. That would be my goal.
Yeah, it's I was going to say something, now I forgot, but crap.
Okay.
Well, good luck. It's fun. It can be
Thank
fun.
you. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. As I think you can tell by me blathering on about it.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good. It changed the league so much for me, like the way I looked at it. But it's kind of I did want to stay on when I got done, or when I ended up quitting as GM, but didn't work out because it makes the league. I think there's a lot more for you to do, so it made there's just more reason to be around the league if you're a GM. So, but yeah, okay. So let's go. Regular season's over. Do we want to actually talk about how the regular season ended first, or do we want to go straight to playoffs?
Do we? I mean, at this point, I think.
I mean, we could just give a quick rundown, really quick,
Yeah,
of where the standings were at, and I guess we'll kind of see that in the way the teams are seeded for playoffs when we get into that too.
Yeah, that was my thought there.
Sue, I guess let's just jump straight to playoffs then, because do we want to talk about like scoring or anything like that, scoring leaders, anything like that?
We could, but I think let's save that for off season when we have nothing to talk about. Yeah. We can start talking about our awards predictions and that kind of thing.
Sure. Okay, that sounds good. I like that idea. All right, so let's go straight to the SHL then. Let's start with the first round, even though the first round's well over. We didn't really get to talk much about it, but so our first matchup. Oh yeah, I forgot about the whole Seattle thing. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Seattle, Calgary, Edmonton, Texas for the first round matchups for the West. And then West Kendall, New England, and Minnesota, Toronto for the East. Sue, at the end of the season, it was like Texas was the top of the West, like pretty much the entire regular season, weren't they?
I think they were more.
Or was it towards the end?
It was towards the end because I think we talked about it. We talked about it last time, and I think last time we talked about it, it was that they were an extremely close division. Seattle and LA fighting for the bottom spot, and then Calgary, Edmonton, and Texas, more so Edmonton and Texas, really duking it out for the top of the West.
Yeah, and that's it was Broadway playing extremely well early in the season.
Yeah.
Edmonton on top, and then Texas towards the end of the season was jumped up to number one, and then I think right at the end there, Calgary took the number one spot, like right at the end.
Yep. Yeah, so, it was not a great season for Calgary. They
started off so slow. I actually because I had talked to both Baller, I mean very, very briefly, Baller and Issa about bank stuff, and in passing I was kind of like, hey, what did you guys have a slow start? Because I didn't really pay attention, but yeah, they basically just got off to a poor start through early in the season, but yeah, I mean they're still that team. It's just
yeah, they're starting to. They haven't had new blood in a while, and I think that really peps up a franchise. So I think we'll see them come back, adding a juniors player, even if they don't they don't pull that person up, they don't call that person up. I think the act of like draft activity really like wakes the locker room up again after a long off season.
Yeah.
So I think it's just I honestly think it's been a while since they've had any new blood, and they're ready. They're ready for it to sort of welcome a new dragon into the fold.
So that first matchup, then Seattle ended up beating Calgary 4-2. Let's see. I actually don't know how that played out. I want to take a look really quick. I didn't pay attention to that.
Seattle won the first two.
First two, yeah.
And then I think Calgary came back on them, and that was after the issue with Seattle's regression had been discovered.
Mm-hmm.
But even after the regression was fixed, Seattle did end up catching them again anyway.
Yeah, it looks like Calgary won game 3. Then Seattle took game 4 in overtime. Calgary shut them out in game 5, and then last game 3-2 Seattle.
Yeah, so it was a closer series than it looked on paper, and might even have been closer had the Seattle thing been done differently. Again, I said this before, but there were lots of opportunities for it to be caught, and nothing worked. No fallback, there's no backstop. All of them failed. So it's really, really rare that happens. But it is what it is now, obviously. But I don't think either team, no matter how it went, I don't think Calgary was going to get back to the front of the league again. I think Edmonton has been stronger this year, and Texas put up a decent showing. But I'm disappointed for them that we aren't sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I still think Calgary's a pretty substantially better team than Seattle, regardless of the situation. But I think Texas is going to be very good here. Probably actually better than I think Texas will probably be the class of that conference for a little while here. Edmonton's taken a couple of hits in terms of like players getting older, and Jedi's player retiring, so this is his last season. And they're still very, very good. But anyway, let's go to the next matchup, which is Edmonton, Texas. Edmonton being kind of like the older team, and Texas being the younger team, kind of the more up and coming team. Let's see. Okay, so in that series, Texas took game 1, and Edmonton won game 2 in overtime. Edmonton shut them out in game 3. Edmonton wins game 4. Texas comes back and wins game 5, and then game 6, Edmonton wins 3-2 in overtime. So I think probably the biggest difference between the two teams, and I don't know how big the difference actually is, because I think Storm's player is actually all right, but I know Broadway is a very good player. Let's take a look at their. Yeah, Storm's actually 83 overall, so his goalie's pretty good. So that would have been my first thought, is that maybe there's a goalie advantage for Edmonton. Broadway's actually an 82, so technically Storm's goalie is better. I would have actually thought they were even, or Broadway would be slightly better. So I'm not sure what the big difference is there, because I know Texas is a very offensive team, puts up a lot of points. At least they did in the regular season. So maybe the difference, I'm not sure the difference here. Maybe defense. I mean, Texas does have Lidstrom and Vader, who are both solid defensemen. Of course, Edmonton has Jedi's player, Roger Tanaka, Stinson, who are both quite good. Winston Windsor as well, still quite good. And then Svensson, which is Tez's player, I believe. Is that right? No. Who's Svensson?
I know it's Martin Svensson, but I don't remember who owns him.
I mean, the matchup looks quite even, just looking at the rosters kind of briefly.
I wonder. See, that would be a situation where I think it's probably comes down to build differential.
Building lines and so on. Or I mean, and then there's also the random sim factor too. You know.
Of course, yeah. So, but I think they're not like I don't think the difference is that big, but Edmonton has traditionally had some success, significant success with doing their line magic. I feel like their players build with a similar mindset.
Yeah.
So I think there's probably discussion on who's gonna like slot into where, and so I think they have a significant planning process there. Not that Texas doesn't. I know I know zip about Texas.
Yeah, that's my thing. Is I guess I don't know how well, or I don't know Texas well enough. I mean, I know Jedi is good with the lines. Yeah, he's not like a magician or anything, but he knows what he's doing. And I can't really speak for
Yeah.
Texas on their ability to do lines. So that could be the difference. I don't know.
Yeah, they had a good run. They had a good run with some sort of less, quote unquote, less good people last season too. So I think they may have even won a coaching award last season.
I'm not sure, but I mean they have a pretty decent team, and they've got a fairly young team with lots of like not young, but I guess players entering their prime with like the S25 class. They've got three of the better players from the S25 class. So and they're all forwards. So
Yep.
So yeah, they've got guys there, and they're gonna only get better too. I think probably the biggest thing for them is what's draft class was Storm, because he's like was he an S23? Maybe I'm not sure.
So?
That seems right. So he's still got some seasons left too. So they've got a pretty decent window here now, but not this season.
Nope.
So yeah. Texas is out in the first round against Edmonton, 6 games. Let's go to messing up with my screens here. Okay, let's go to the East then. So we had New England finishing first in the East, followed by Toronto, then Minnesota, and then West Kendall. So those are the matchups are then New England, West Kendall, Toronto, and Minnesota. And so our matchup was against West Kendall, and while they are the 4th seed and we were the 1 seed, that's not really just actually quite even match.
The other interesting thing to note there is that they were the people who gave us our toughest contest in last playoffs.
Yeah, and I don't think it's any secret why we're the 2 deepest teams in the league. I think at this point, so it's not a huge surprise. They're very good. I think right now their weakness is goaltending, but the rest of their team is very, very solid, like top to bottom.
Yep.
So that ended up going 7 games. New England, we won. Sure how that's. I didn't pay as close attention to that series.
It was the same. That was the our 3-1 narrative.
3-1. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, West Kendall went up by 3 games, and
and the last game was overtime as well. Wow.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Well.
So yeah, it was a dogfight. So
yeah, there were 4 overtime games in that series. That's crazy. Yeah, they're very good. And for them being the 4th seed, I think that's impressive.
Because they're also so similar. Like we're so similar to West Kendall. We pull from we pull from that Kelowna pipeline. So yeah, I think I always, when we get matched up with them, I look forward to it just because everybody kind of knows each other at this point. It almost feels like if this were like a real thing, they should be our geographical rivals with the way we like know each other so well. The fact that they're actually nowhere near New England doesn't end up entering into it, but yeah, I think it has that like 2 sides of the family duking it out sort of feel. It's not it was not the Minnesota New England matchup, which is sort of the other deal, the opposite sides of the coin.
Yeah. So, let's see. I'm just looking at scores here. There was very few games were like, I don't know, low scoring. There's one game where we only scored 1 to their 5, but the rest of them are all 3-4, 5-4, 4-3. Yeah, it's. I don't know. I didn't, like I said, I didn't pay that close attention to the series until the end when we were, yeah. So
yeah, I think you can see that when you look at our team's builds, though. Like most of us, I think you and PB are you're the best people on the team, but you're also the people on the team in terms of TPE, but you're also the people on the team with points in checking at all.
yeah, mine's actually lower than you would expect, just because I've been working everything else. It's only 66, which I need to probably work in the off season a little bit. Yeah, I was actually kind of disappointed with my hits this season, but then,
yeah, that's the thing though, is like our team is not built on our team is not built on delivering hits to other people. Our team is built on softness and a lot of sniping goal scoring. So it's sort of like when we do win games, it makes sense that most of them would be high scoring games, I think.
Yeah. So let's see. The other matchup was Minnesota-Toronto, and Toronto actually looked really good this season. I guess they look good every season, but they looked particularly good to me this season.
Yeah,
they gave us a lot of problems, and of course, like Cunningham and Eriksson are kind of lighting it up now. Because I think in the past they hadn't really been. I mean, they'd been solid players, but they hadn't been putting up the kind of points they have been these past 2 seasons.
No, I'm for sure. I don't know what the rest of the committee will feel like, but I'm probably going to argue for Cunningham as breakout, just because his stats were phenomenal this season in basically every category. We were putting the milestones together for the PT team, and I was like, holy buckets, this guy is consistently at the top of the milestone leaderboard in pretty much every category.
I don't know what they figured out, because both Cunningham and Eriksson have been like high TPE forwards for a few seasons, but it's just these like past 2 where I don't know, they figured out something with their lines or with their ice time or whatever it is. Because they always looked like attractive options in fantasy in previous seasons just because of their TPE totals. But it's only been these past 2 seasons.
Produce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been solid, but not like, yeah.
Not like this, not like world beaters.
Yeah, they're very, very strong now. So yeah, I think this outcome isn't a huge surprise. Minnesota's still decent, but Toronto just looked so good.
Minnesota does not have any depth.
That's the issue.
They're playing with only 2 lines, and I mean that also actually came up when we did the milestones. Minnesota, we adjusted a bunch of them because the way Minnesota's players fell out, they really have 2 of their lines doing most of their ice time, with the way they've sort of built up. So a lot of their sort of top tier players for their TPE level were a bit, their stats were a bit artificially inflated because they were doing the ice time that way, because they were only really running 2 lines materially. So I think that doesn't matter as much in the regular season. I think you're still going to get into the playoffs, but when you're in crunch time and you're looking for performance from multiple areas, I think the lack of depth does hurt them.
Yeah, I would say so.
So, and again, that's something I can really see them fixing. I like Baylor a lot. I've worked with him on the PT team, and he's a good guy. I think if he sort of really steps up and starts actively recruiting some people from their sort of like Whalers Detroit pipeline, they could potentially pull some good rookies up. So we'll see what they do. I think it'll be interesting.
Yeah, and I don't think it will take much. They've still got like some of the best like top end players in the league. Like Argar especially is good and going to remain good for quite some time.
A while. Yeah. That's the benefit to TPE crushing.
Yeah. So I mean they're not in really any, and they've got a goaltender for the future too. So they've got that set, so they don't really have that much to worry about. They just need to add a little bit. And I need to mention, I just realized this while you were talking there. I didn't start the timer, so I have no idea where we're at.
Woo!
So back at it. Apologies to whoever listens to this, however long it ends up going, because I have no idea where we're at.
Cool. All right. Well, I know we've done at least 40 minutes because I checked.
Really? Oh man.
Because we had done we had done roughly 20 minutes at like 1:20.
Oh man. Maybe we should pick up the pace a little bit here then, because we're not even going to be able to touch the SMJHL or the questions or.
Yeah. Right.
Typical though, I think.
Remember I said before we started that we would have plenty of content this time.
Yeah. Toronto in 5 games. So round 2, that leaves us with Edmonton and Seattle in the West, and Toronto and New England in the East. So Edmonton, Seattle, again, like this is similar to the Calgary-Seattle matchup. It looks to be pretty heavily favored for Edmonton. And that's how kind of the result ended up, I think. No big surprise there. Edmonton's just quite a bit better. There's the really, really good team. We already kind of covered what the strengths of the teams and so on. And I actually didn't really cover Seattle too much because I honestly don't know. But
they
at any
have
rate,
a bunch of they're an interesting team in that I think they're sort of still trying to be up and comers. I think they're actually more in a place where New England was a couple of seasons ago, where they're sort of waiting on their like Clardy and those guys. I think they're sort of waiting on their sort of lower level players to become more active and really sort of get up into the TPE earning prime. So I think they're playing kind of a waiting game.
They've actually got some really solid players in their roster, like Dean Colt, Alexanderson, Leonidas, Jed Lauren, David Benson. So they've got some really good forwards.
Yep.
So I don't know. Their roster is actually quite good.
Yeah, the problem they're struggling with is inactivity.
Yeah, I know. Like
they've got some old olds and some young youngs, and never the twain shall meet.
So at any rate, since we're trying to accelerate slightly, that series was won by Edmonton in 5 games. Second here. See how that went down really quick. That was Seattle took the first game, and then Edmonton took the rest. They were all with, well, I guess, yeah, Edmonton kind of won games 2 and 3 pretty handily, and then game 4 was overtime, game 5, sorry. Edmonton won the first game, Seattle won the second. I'm just blind, it's fine. So yeah, I guess, first game was close, the second game was close, third and fourth were not that close for Edmonton, and then the last game was in overtime. So I guess the matchup ended up relatively close overall. If you look at the
better than it was on paper.
Yeah, but still, I don't think that's a huge surprise, at least not for me.
Nope.
So then that leaves us.
I think we touched on why not.
Yeah, I think we're good there. So then in the East, that leaves us with Toronto and New England. And this is another matchup that it's not close in the same way that the West Kendall New England matchup is close, but it's still, I think, a close matchup because, again, Toronto is quite good.
It went up. The fact that it was another 3-1 going into the PvPs.
Yeah. I mean, they're not as deep as West Kendall, but they have more top end players, especially forwards. I think.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's part of why the team has been so frustrated is because they should have a cup by now.
Yeah. Erickson and Cunningham are extremely good. They've also got Falk and Barbashev at forward, so they've got some extremely good forwards.
And all 4 of them produced for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course Harder. I mean, Harder's one of the top goaltenders in the league. But unfortunately, typical Toronto fashion, they lost I guess the game 7 may not necessarily be typical, but the loss is typical. I'm sorry, Toronto. I do feel bad for them. I can't help it.
I do too. They should have a cup by now. They should.
I mean,
And the fact that they don't,
yeah,
it's like you want them to hang on and like keep going for it, but like I know Falk, Bad Apple asked out because he was like, I just can't keep doing this.
yeah, it's got to be frustrating.
So yeah, but I think I know it sounds like J&H is stepping down.
Yeah, and I don't really think that he necessarily did anything wrong because the team is performing the regular season very well, and he's got his players performing at a high level as well. It's just, I mean, I guess he did say he's got other stuff going on too, but
yeah,
I definitely wouldn't put it on him that they haven't.
Not this season.
Yeah,
No,
not this season. Certainly.
they've done well this season.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is really disappointing. It would absolutely suck to be up. We did it actually. We did it in Kelowna.
Yeah.
It hurts my heart to remember it.
It happens. It can happen to anybody. I mean, even more so in the juniors. The juniors is so crazy, but
yeah,
it's got to be a tough way to go out.
it's hard.
Yeah.
I think it's probably harder to face it at the seniors level because you're at the point where you've put so much TPE and love and time into your player.
Yeah, and typically the play is more consistent too in terms of like the better team kind of outperforming.
Right.
Usually, I mean, there's always the room for the random, but I think it's less volatile in the SHL.
Yeah, you got a bigger TPE gap to work with.
Yeah. So that leaves us with then the finals of this is same as last season, wasn't it? Edmonton, New England.
Yep. Doing it again.
Yep, and they're actually this team that I fear the second most, I would say, in the West. First being still Calgary. So yeah, they're very good. It should be a really good matchup. It didn't end up being last season, unfortunately, but I think it should be very close.
Yeah, if the sim does not decide to give us multiple Tanner games, then we'll I think we should see a much closer result here. But I think the real question for me is, can Laukkanen keep producing as a sort of brand new starting goalie against Broadway?
Yeah, I mean,
I think if there's a difference, I think at this point in with the rosters the way they are and the teams the way they are, I think if there's a difference, I think it'll come from goaltending.
I mean, if you look at just straight TPE, if Laukkanen's the starter for us, then we're at a disadvantage, I think, clearly.
Yeah.
But
so the question is, do we end up throwing Tanner into the mix if we go down late, like we did with the other two series?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I haven't honestly paid attention to see who's been playing goaltender. So
yeah, they've been sharing starts.
Have they been? Okay.
So it's been mostly Laukkanen, but then I think Tanner has come in for the sort of down late emergency crunches.
Okay. Yeah.
So because this will be Tanner's final chance to get a cup with his retiring player.
Yeah.
So
it should be a fun matchup, and Edmonton's another team that I like. I like a lot of their players. So.
Yes, I really enjoy playing them. They're good. Like they're just a really classy organization. Consistently. So I like the culture they've got going on there. I like that they're really randomly also all into wrestling. I feel like it's another place on site where you know what you're getting with them, and it's good. It's positive. So it's they're consistently sort of the fun people, and they keep the atmosphere light. So I really enjoy it when we are up against them.
Yeah, they're good. So that's kind of up to date then, I guess, on the SHL playoffs where we're at. We start actually today. The first sim may have already happened.
It's happened. We're waiting on PvPs because all of them will get done. And it looks like Jay has the first PvP today, so we should see that happen. Looks like Jay and then Juice will take the second.
Okay, cool. So let's take a look at the juniors then really quick. Let's do this a little bit more quickly, I think. I, of course, did not have it ready. Okay, so What do I want here? Sorry, I wasn't really prepared here. So in the West, Prince George and okay, so we'll go through we'll just go through the matchups. I'm not going to worry about the seeding because it's, I think, less important in the juniors. But the first matchup for the West was Prince George and Kelowna, and the second matchup was Colorado and Vancouver. Then in the East, we have St. Louis and Halifax, and Montreal and Detroit. These are tricky to me because, like, I know in the West, Kelowna was the 1 seed and Prince George is the 4 seed, but that means a lot less in the juniors to me. Just the way the teams shake out. So that matchup could potentially be, an upset. And to me, it's not really that big of an upset because of the way the players or the way the sim in the juniors kind of operates. It's a lot more random. But that ended up going 4-0 for Kelowna, which I'm pretty happy about.
Yep.
I don't really have a whole lot to say about it because I didn't really pay attention to it. I saw the result, and that was kind of as far as I went with it. So I'm a little less involved now. So
I think just from what I've been paying attention to in the juniors, Kelowna and Halifax are the 2 most active juniors teams. And Vancouver, who nearly sort of edged out Kelowna, I think is the 3rd. So I think it's been who's had success with FA signings and keeping their players active throughout the season. And I feel that way. It also, for Kelowna, it's been building for some time, I think, as it sort of has been for Halifax, who were the winners last season. So I think, I don't know, I could have, this is sort of what I wanted to happen. Could I have predicted it? I don't know that I could have said it would go this way, but if you had given me the blind, okay, who's going to have the most success going into the postseason, minus the whims of the sim, they would have been the teams I would have named to move on.
Yeah, that's probably the most or the best indicator for success in the juniors is the activity level. It's still a tough, just because of the sim randomness, but yeah, that's I think the best indicator. So it's Kelowna, Prince George. Kelowna takes it in 4. Next series we've got Colorado, Vancouver. I don't really know anything about either of these teams, so I don't really have a lot to say.
Colorado's inactive and Vancouver is not. That's about it.
Well, it ended up going 7 games. Doesn't Colorado have a good goalie, though? Is that right?
Or am I thinking? Rudnikova.
Okay, so yeah, because I think that's the issue we ran into last season, wasn't it? Or was that?
Yeah. Was it? No, that was it. Last season was the Vancouver issue, not the Colorado issue.
No, I thought we ran into.
We handled Colorado last season.
Okay. Well, at any rate,
2 seasons ago was the.
Okay, I don't know. Vancouver takes it in 7. We'll take a look at the breakdown of the games really quick, just to see if there's anything interesting there. Looks like not really. I mean, it's so tough to tell just by looking at the scores, but it looked pretty back and forth to begin with. Colorado shut out Vancouver, then Vancouver shuts out Colorado, and then Colorado loses the rest of the games. So, there's not I don't really want to dig too deeply into it because I have no idea where to start, and we're not super great on time. So, let's go to the East then.
Yep.
First matchup. This is again the 4 seed of St. Louis against the 1 seed of Halifax.
And that was not a surprise. St. Louis has lost a lot of its active players. They still have some alumni kicking around, but they ran into the issue of the weak draft class. They didn't have a ton of picks in a draft class where it was weak, and they but the previous one 2 draft classes ago was very, very strong, they didn't have a ton of picks there either.
Yeah, that hurts. But yeah, I think I would have seen St. Louis being not great this season. That's not a huge surprise to me.
Nope.
And Halifax was quite well. They actually weren't that good last season. They were only good in the playoffs.
They're the that's my thing again about rookies staying active being so important to a juniors team, because that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
They had their new people come in and be really strong for the team.
So yeah, we've got Halifax wins that in 4. I think no huge surprise. I'm not really going to worry about the breakdown of the games there. So we'll go to our next matchup, which is going to be Montreal at the 3 seed and Detroit at the 2. This one went 7.
Was it? Oh yeah. Well,
yeah. Pretty sure.
Yeah.
Let's look at that really quick. Oops, I missed it. It went by. Okay. So that matchup looks like Detroit lost the first 3 games and then came back and won the next 4.
Came back. Yep.
Yep. And that was another series that went 4 overtime games in 7. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. So it must have been quite close.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know enough about either team to really.
Detroit was sort of riding on some older members who did really well with TP at the start and then absolutely crashed.
Okay.
And then Montreal did sort of the opposite. They had some players who were new to the league and then earned well, but then sort of tailed off towards the end of the season. TPE wise. So yeah. They had more. I think what happened to Montreal was call-ups. I think they got hit hard by call-ups this season.
Yeah.
So, which happens to everybody, but
inevitable. So that leaves in the second round for the juniors. We've got Kelowna, Vancouver, and Halifax, Detroit.
Both absolute dogfights.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny.
So yeah, and for me the Vancouver Kelowna matchup is like the classic rivalry matchup for us. So
yeah, that is. I think I don't know if there's a better rivalry in the SHL than Kelowna Vancouver.
There's a lot of people. I don't know about the Vancouver side, but the Kelowna side, there's a lot of people who have a lot of dislike for the Vancouver Whalers. So
I think because we've been knocked out by them in unfortunate position.
Yeah. So this series, it ended up going 7 games, and it was it a full 3 then 4?
3-1. Yeah, I believe so.
Or was it 3-1? Of course, I don't know this. Yeah, Vancouver won the first 3, and
then Kelowna going on that 4-game win streak.
And then the game 7 was like I actually watched the play-by-play of the game 7, and that was rough to watch because it was a 5-0 game.
Wow. Yeah, I went into the GM office because I had just gotten access to it because I was going to check who I needed to make sure did their updates. And it was going to have to be a very fast turnaround for updates. I think it was like a Friday to Saturday, like, let's go and get these guys in. So I went to go peek at the score so I could know who to poke and ask if they were going to be able to do their updates. And I went in and I looked at the score and I knew that the series had been tied and I was like, oh no. So I was of course happy as a Kelowna alum, but I was like, no, that's so discouraging.
Yeah, to get reverse swept and then in that last game.
And then to be reverse swept all the way to a final shutout is rough.
Yeah, that's tough.
Super rough. So more narrative for the rivalry.
Yeah. Condolences, Vancouver. I mean, I'm not really sorry, but I empathize a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, I feel bad. I don't feel super bad, but I feel a little bad.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that. And I'm really glad especially after going back to back, like best regular season records, to have Kelowna in the finals.
Yes.
I feel like they deserve it.
Yep.
So then,
too long.
Yep, that leaves us with Detroit and Halifax in the East, and this was not quite as close, but it's really 6 games instead of 7. Not sure how it played out though, because I did not pay attention to this one at all.
I think it was another one where Detroit was behind going into PvPs. And then they were hoping they could hang on, but it didn't happen.
It looks like Detroit won the first game, lost 2, then won the 4th, so it was 2-2. And
okay. Never mind.
Won the game 5 and 6. So another three overtimes in a 6-game series there. So
yeah,
Detroit
it was tight.
Hanging in there, pretty tough with some these teams. So
yeah, I remember talking to Zach right after it happened, and he was really disappointed. So yeah. I felt bad.
Okay. So yeah, that leaves. I don't really have anything to say about that series because I don't really know either team well enough to say a whole lot. Is there anything else you want to talk about with that?
Nope. I think that's it.
All right. So then our finals matchup for the juniors is going to be Halifax and Kelowna,
which I think is going to be a great matchup. I'm really excited about it.
I don't know enough about Halifax to really say anything, but so yeah.
They're good. They're a good team. They've got some serious solidity. They've got Pell in goal, and she was signed as an FA, but since then has been one of the best TB earners in the class.
Yep.
Eventually we'll go up to Texas and battle for a starting spot there. And then yeah. So I think they've got Volkova first overall. Is still hanging out in Halifax for the time being.
Huge bust.
Yeah. they've got a really solid squad. So I think they should both. I think it's at the point where both sides have a ton of cap players and both sides have active rookies, and it'll honestly be whim of the sim at this point. So hopefully we'll see who does stuff with lines and is able to get that tight advantage. I think it's gonna be a great series. If it's one that goes to 7 here, I will absolutely not be surprised at all.
Yeah. Well, as long as it's competitive and good, and yeah, I'll be happy.
Yeah, it sucks when you get to the cup finals and it's like devastating for one team.
Yeah, it's no fun.
So yeah, I'm hoping for a good battle. I say it both as a Kelowna alum and as someone who was very proud of Halifax's win last season. I hope just because Halifax has won it the past season, I hope that Kelowna is the one who comes away with it so it can be a little more shared. But again, if Halifax manages to win it and does a crazy, incredible back-to-back season victory, that's also really cool. So I'm happy. However it ends up shaking out, and I hope that, again, I hope for the juniors players involved, I hope it's a good, even showing from both teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. So that's kind of the big stuff, the big things that are going on. That's because that's the playoffs. That's what's happening. Do we want to just jump into questions and start to just run through what we've got? Okay. So we've got some old ones from Zach that are maybe, well, I guess they're not specific to it, but they're just old. They're not like specific to anything going on in the league. So it's not a big deal. But he's I guess this isn't really a question. It's more about when I was saying exactly, and I know I kind of don't pronounce it super clear. I know I don't like hit the T very hard to say exact instead of zact. At any rate, so he was like hearing his own name in the word when I was saying it, and I think it was kind of bugging him. And I kind of understand where you're coming from because I've got to, I mean, this is a different scenario, but I think it's probably a similar thing to what you're feeling. Whereas I've never worked with another person with the same first name as me until the job I'm at now, which I started just, what are we at here? 9 months ago. There's a person, he doesn't work in the same area, but people talk to him on the phone a lot or say his name, not talking about him.
Yep.
And he has the same first name.
Then your head comes up, you're like, what?
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, is that, nope, not me. Okay. So I think I kind of understand where you're coming from. I'd never really had that that kind of experience before. But yeah, hearing your name and thinking it's you for a split moment and it catches you. And so I'm sorry about that. I know you didn't say anything. You said not to change anything. You're just kind of pointing it out, I guess. Sorry. I hope this episode is better for you.
I have to say, as a Kristen who's frequently nicknamed Chris, at home, I go out in the world, and every time, Kristen is not that common as like a girl name, but Chris is such a common guy name that constantly someone's like, Chris, and I'm like, yes, and then I turn and it's not me, and I'm like, I'm chill, I'm going. Not me, it's fine.
All right, so and then his other one is favorite fail flute cover of a popular song. That's for you, by the way. I'm not exactly sure what that means, actually.
Okay. It started with, because I don't think you're I think you popped into the general Discord, but we're not hanging out there for the fail flute discussion. Okay, so I don't know what happened, but we were all in voice chat for some reason. I think we had just finished a Clardy podcast, and basically the new Clardy podcast is everyone hops into the SHL Discord and just talks about random bullshit. So this one that came up was they do the as Cards Against Humanity would say, the penny whistle solo from My Heart Will Go On. Somebody did a cover of that with basically like a very squeaky recorder and just put their heart and soul into it. And it was one of the funniest things I've ever heard on the internet. So Zach had this delightful laugh that he just starts dying. And I think it probably, like, the fervor would have died down over this fail flute nonsense if Zach's laugh had not been so funny. And we all just started like bursting out laughing. So we went through some other things, and while this is not technically fail flute, I love the entire orchestral fail cover where everyone swaps instruments with each other and then tries to play the opening Universal theme. That is an excellent one. That's a classic. So I think that's my favorite. It's not really a pop song cover, but it's well known enough that that's my favorite cover of something terrible.
Okay, interesting.
So I'll link it to you. It's worth a listen.
All right. And then we've got a whole bunch of stuff for you from NY Rangers.
From Bleach.
Yeah, Bleach.
Yep. Okay. So what are my thoughts and feelings on being named the new co-jam for Colorado? Absolutely, positively blown away, excited. I'm a mess. I think we talked a lot about that before. So I'll skip that for the sake of time. But really, really excited. Really excited. Crazy excited. All right. So question number 2: talk about some of the players currently on the team. What players? No, I'm just kidding. We have at least 2 people who ever come into the Discord. We're gonna try to get that going again. But I know we have Leech, who's been good and successful and stayed updated. Is past the cap at this point, and is captain. And we have who else have we got who is important? Lots of people. Few people. We've got, I think, how the hell do you say his name? Ikalele? Potentially? And then we still have, so he's going to be good, and we still have Mel. The problem is, our sort of going into the And this actually, I'll sort of blend this in with the other questions. What do you think the Mammoth's biggest strength and weaknesses are? Biggest weakness right now is we're about to lose a ton of people to call-ups and don't really have many people behind them. That being said, I have not taken a look at our draft pick tracker and where the class is. I have not. My fear is it's going to be a very weak class because there hasn't been a big recruiting effort. They haven't replaced the recruitment head. And then also, I don't know what our pick situation is in terms of who we have to attract. So I think it's going to depend heavily on outside recruiting and free agents. So no pressure there. But I don't know. I think the biggest strength comes from that we do have alums who, despite some GM activity a couple seasons ago, are still invested in here. I think that's big and very important for a rebuild of a team. You have to have a couple of people who are on board with you. Otherwise, you're just a sinking ship. Then you're not rebuilding at all. So what types of players am I looking to add in the off-season? Players who I like their personality and their activity level. I'm really not looking for positions so much because for two reasons. One, because you can get around penalties for out-of-position play, so that's not as big an issue. But secondarily, because I want people who are going to be happy in Colorado. I want to bring people in who are excited to be part of a rebuild and understand that it may take us a little time to get back up there. And that especially with teams who have holes, the players we bring in this season may face not being in cup contention in their junior's career, especially if it's a short one. So I hate that. It sucks that I am sort of brutally honest about that there, but I don't want to bring anyone in who is not capable of some patience, and knowing that they're crucial not to their success as an individual, but to being good team members, to being strong alumni who I can count on to help me boost the activity of the locker room and the Discord. So what types of players am I looking to add? I'm looking to add active ones who are patient and willing to wait for success and willing to take some advice on builds and eager to be part of an organization that's maybe not quite as strong, but can give them a lot of ice time, can really help them succeed as individuals, but then also count on them to be part of a team as we sort of regrow the alumni base. And then finally, your thoughts on that scrub Matthew Leach. I think he's a nice guy who should stop leaving me right in the middle of conversations to go play hockey. I'm mostly kidding. I'm glad you're enjoying your hockey. I hope your team is doing well. I don't think I've asked you whether your team is built of scrubs or not, but I hope they're not. So I'm glad you're not getting bag skated for chatting uselessly with me on the Discord. So bring people from your team, please recruit. That's it. All right, and then Rich, the last one is for you.
Yeah, and it doesn't really make sense because.
Oh, because we already, yeah, awkward.
It says, congrats New England winning in round 1. How do you think your chances are against Toronto? Well, let's talk about then our chances against Edmonton really quick.
Wait, I think they're great.
I mean, it was close. So.
I think it's going to be close, but I think we might have the win.
So, but yeah, Edmonton I think is a good matchup. I think we have the edge slightly. I think we certainly have. I mean, we clearly have a depth edge. I think they have a defensive advantage. And if the goalie matchup is locking in Broadway, then they have a goalie matchup. But I think overall depth, I think we have the advantage there. And I think that puts us in a good position to win. I feel like we have a good chance.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Okay.
And with that, we can call it because that probably was more than enough time.
I think we should be fine.
Classic too long did not listen fashion. So.
Yeah, Yeah, that was for a return episode. That was all of that ticked all of the boxes.
Yeah. So, if you stuck with us, I don't even know this. I don't even know where we're at for time. But if you stuck with us, thank you.
I love you all. You're probably 3 hours.
Yeah. If you're a return listener or a new listener, thank you very much for listening. We appreciate it. If you've got questions for us, absolutely put them in our question thread, which does not share the name of the podcast. It's actually just Akamai and Rich podcast, because at that point we did not have a name.
Oh, should we rename that?
I don't know. Whatever.
I think I can do that. Okay, wait.
Yeah, no, we can. I'm pretty sure I can too.
I have the power. Oh my god, I'm going to rename it. Okay, this is so exciting.
So if you have questions, go ahead and stick them in there. We will rename it to the appropriate name. And yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for listening. And we will catch you next time, which will hopefully be going back to every week here, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, thanks. Goodbye.
Bye, SHL.